How you doing today?
Doing all right. What's up, Andrew? Welcome to OMGamrz.
Crazy day.
Yeah, it's been insane.
It's day one.
Day one.
So, this is us, OMGamrz.
Hey, how you doing?
Started this for you.
Yes.
And for all the OMGamrz out there, because there's millions of us.
So Andrew, just define an old man gamer in your mind.
In my mind, it's somebody who's been around since original arcade games at this point, and has played all the game systems all the way through. Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Pong, everything, Pac-Man. Lived through all generations. They're here now in 2024.
Yeah.
Going, hey, we have our newest VR units from PlayStation VR, the second version. We have Meta has their next number 3 out, their Meta thing coming out the professional. Apple just released their Apple Vision VR, so we have that. We have PS5, we have Xbox X and S. We have Nintendo Switch coming out, Nintendo Switch 2 in a couple months. Announcement, should say, it won't be out the fall, we think. And it's a good time to be gaming for all band gamers.
I completely agree. It's an incredible time for us to be gamers, just because of the fact that just to sum it up in a nutshell, to give a visual, what we're talking about old man gamers is any one of us here on this couch, but out there in the audience, you will know exactly what we're talking about, which is the days when you had to get up off the couch, physically walk over to the TV, which was a tube TV.
Oh, yeah.
You pulled the little knob to turn it on. You had to turn the knob to even turn on there.
You had to make sure the earplugs were hooked up right because you were disconnected from your system.
100%. Or you had to go to the back where they had the little coaxial box and you had to put it on game, flip it down to game, and then make sure the channel was either on 3 or 4 so that you could go ahead and you could play your game. So it wasn't just click a button and the smart TV turns on.
Turning the dial on your little black television.
Yeah.
Screen's this big, 10 to 12 inches. You were amazed that you had a screen to yourself.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go to a certain time.
Hey, go even further. You were amazed you had a color screen to yourself.
I'm older than you. So it's black and white for me, eventually went to color.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. I sat in high school, I had a Super Nintendo, the NES. Which I thought was the bee's knees because my mom and my dad were finally able to get me a Nintendo.
Yeah.
I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
I had are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I had a 13-inch black and white screen in my bedroom.
What brand?
With Toshiba, I think it was.
Mine was General Electric.
Oh, you had a GE. So see, folks, what we're basically painting for a picture here is that
ancient times.
Old man gaming is before there was a wheel and we were rubbing sticks together for fire, and you had to actually go turn the physical TV on with a knob.
Very true.
And you had to do all the crazy technical stuff just to be able to play your personal gaming console on the TV.
Yeah.
This is back. We're talking about back when PC gaming was a PC that had an ancillary peripheral device that had a cassette tape that you put into it and pressed play.
Oh yeah.
And you could play your PC game while the reel was going. And God forbid anything happened with the actual
sound coming out of that cassette.
Yeah, because if the cassette thing started messing up.
We're talking back the TRS-80, the Apple II.
Yep.
The Commodore 64, the VIC-20 before, with that. All those systems. Original Mac, Trash 80. I had a TI-94A was my first computer, and I actually have it still in the back with its original speech connector, translation to speech. I have a cassette player. I have my wife's Commodore 64 with all her game systems. So, Old Man Gamers.
So what you're saying is you also might have back there a chisel with a rock for a hammer.
One thing I say about those old game systems, they last.
Oh yeah.
They don't break.
100%.
The CD-ROM doesn't go out, and guess what? You can't use the system, and it costs you $300 to $150 to replace that CD-ROM. If you trust the person to get your old Xbox and not take data off the hard drive and hack your account, so it's just kind of funny. Like as things have gotten better, some things have gotten worse.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And that's what we're about. We're about what has gotten better, what has gotten worse, what could be improved. And at our point in our life, we are gamers that like to game. We have spouses that let us game. We have discretionary income. We can go to gaming events. We can travel around the world and go to gaming events. It's our time. We use it wisely in our own way. So part of this is to help you play the games that value your time the most.
Yeah.
And also help you understand what's in the culture. And we're coming to new unique stories, this we'll get into later. But right now, I think we need to start just talking about something like something we currently watched. What was that?
Because it's not just games. We also want to touch. We want to touch on pop media as well.
Totally.
What's in the current zeitgeist for the culture and everything else. So I mean, like for instance, like one of the movies that was recently released on a streaming service that really caught my attention, because just shocker here, as an old man gamer, I also am one of the original folks that they would call a geek or a nerd.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Like before it became cool because because of Sheldon,
someplace reading books and comic books, and no one else is cool as doing that.
We were the geeks that had the comic book box under your bed or in your closet. Yeah, I did trade baseball cards and football cards. And all
I read
that
Dune when I was 6. That influenced my life.
Yeah, and but we were into sci-fi and fantasy, and we liked computers and computer games, and we were truly the epitome of geeks and nerds back in the day.
Totally.
And it before it was cool because of Sheldon and the whole group on TV, and back when they used to make the comments that it was like, hey, be nice to the nerd or the geek because one day he might make Microsoft. I'm just saying.
That was before Microsoft. So none of that happened.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it was it's one of those things that what I'm looking at is that we want to make sure that we're not only touching on gaming, because gaming is a very serious, passionate part of what we are doing. And it's evolving because we also want to look at kind of what's out there. Because, I mean, we're talking about two guys who saw Star Wars in the theaters.
For the first time.
First
blue screen use of, well, besides, what's the one? 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Besides that, it was the first time mass release, and it was done well. People don't say that. Star Wars blue screen technology was done well. We were like, oh my gosh, it actually looks like spacecrafts flying in outer space. Even though that's not how they fly in outer space, it's still, for our young age, we're like, wow, this is incredible. The sound is incredible.
So I'll tell you,
the cinematography was like next level.
Yeah, I can tell you one of the movies that really made a deep impression on me, and still to this day one of my guilty pleasures is going and watching The Last Starfighter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is, and it was the first movie for all of you. If anybody's tuning in, and if anybody's watching this on YouTube, Rumble, or any one of the streaming platforms out there, and you're catching this episode, our very first episode, then you and you are not familiar with some of the things that we're going to reference, because again, old man gamers. So I mean, I will be glad to give you deep dives on these and kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So when I was growing up in the 80s, because I was born in 77, so I literally was in I was just getting ready to be born in my mother's womb when my dad and my mom went and saw Star Wars in theaters. That's why I say I was there for Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4, when it came out in theaters. And I remember as a child watching Empire Strikes Back with my dad. It was a double feature at the McDonald Theater where I grew up. It's a single screen, old
huge
playhouse theater that had been converted into a movie theater, because that's kind of what they did back in the day in smaller towns, was they took the old playhouse and converted it to a theater because it had the seating, and they turned the stage into an actual theater. And so I remember going and seeing a double feature, and it was Rocky 2.
Yeah.
So I got to go see go see Rocky Balboa do his thing, Sylvester Stallone. And my dad really wanted to go see that, but the second feature was Empire Strikes Back. And that was the first Star Wars film what I personally remember watching on screen.
So that was second for me, but what was important about the movies, I used to read a lot, so I was a little library nerd. And I read all the movie reviews. And before the movie came out, it got like 1 or 2 stars from my local paper, Philadelphia Inquirer. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, how's this going to be such a bad movie? The movie came out, it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then within 11 months, that critic was fired. And they gave a new review, 4 out of 5 stars. And you can look it up. So it's kind of like, it's one of the instances where culture, the critics were behind the times. They didn't understand what people wanted, what they liked. And I feel like right now, we're kind of this cultural, muggy weirdness that's going out there. Where there's a younger generation that gets what's going on. There's a middle generation that kind of understands it, and there's an older generation that understands but doesn't appreciate what's happening, the changes. So we're here to help be that focus for the older generation, but also bring on the new generation, because guess what? You're going to be one of us one day. It's happening.
It's true. It's true. And so that's what I was getting to with our younger viewers that are out there.
Yeah.
What I want to do is for us as old man gamers, not only be able to speak to our generation and maybe the generation behind us, the close to ages, in their 30s and what have you, that they know what we're talking about because, maybe they're older siblings, they have a frame of reference. But for the younger viewers out there, whether you're teenagers or in your 20s, we're the old guys. We're your uncle. We're your dad's age. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's who we are. Hence we're old man gamers. But also giving you tools that maybe you can dip back into pop culture and get a frame of reference for what was and why it's that way today. Yeah. So like I was talking about Last Starfighter, one of the coolest things about Last Starfighter that I thought was just groundbreaking and incredible, and it was this cheesy, almost B-flick movie.
Sure.
Out of Hollywood at the time. It really was one of those like popcorn summer movies that...
But it had Lucas Jr. in it.
Yeah.
Which elevated everything.
Yeah, exactly. Completely.
He's amazing actor.
And Lines was just incredible too. But out of that, what it did was...
So a movie with some first-rate actors in it, which is kind of crazy.
And one of the big things about this is it was the first instance that they utilized computer graphic animation.
Yep.
They used CGI to do the space battles.
Yeah.
Do Alex do Death Blossom.
Yeah.
It's just to this day, if I ever see that movie come on TNT or any of the other channels, I'm a sucker.
So, what about that movie? What we're moving now is the Moon one. The intro.
Yeah, so the movie that we were talking about for streaming that's come out, that I think a lot of folks, obviously, it was #1 rated on Netflix for a long time now, especially for a streaming title.
Yeah.
And additionally, on top of that, it really kind of captures the essence of a new IP and a new intellectual property that's coming out to potentially rival someone like a Star Wars or a Star Trek or Marvel or the list. It's kind of like Witcher, right? Where it's like it existed in its own space and now it's being adapted for video. This has no point of reference, has no frame of reference. And what we're talking about is the new movie from Zack Snyder and Netflix, and that's Rebel Moon.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that really struck me with this, honestly, Andrew, is the fact that Rebel Moon is its own monster.
To me, I call it a 7-headed Hydra, but yes.
Yes.
But it keeps hitting you.
Yeah. And one of the things that really struck me is Zack Snyder is at it again, man. I mean, he's just pulling some cinematic magic out of whole cloth. And apparently he was writing this story going all the way back to when he was in college with his roommate, and his roommate is actually part of the project.
Wow.
So and so what's amazing is that I've read the reviews, I've read online about everything that's going on out there, and people going, it's this, it's that, and the other. But if you take it for what it is, right? So this by itself. So Rebel Moon, a child of ice and fire. Right?
First act.
It's the first act.
Intro.
It's the intro, exactly. This is not going to be some in-depth, great, incredible
twists and tails and wraps it all up in the first.
Yeah, this is not meant to be the in-depth story. I mean, if we were to go back in time to when Star Wars rolled out, and we knew that there was going to be a second and a third one, right? So Return of the Jedi comes out, so now we look back at Star Wars.
And that took like over a decade.
Yeah, it did.
As a kid, you're like, there goes
77, and I think it was like 82 when it came out. 82. Yeah, it was like 80. Anyway, so it was 87 or 88 when Return of the Jedi was completed. So anyway, but in movie world, when at that time Hollywood was pumping them out. I mean, you can just look at like the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, those kind of.
There was a stretch.
Yeah, there was a stretch, or Rambo.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at any of those, and it's like a movie that was successal within 2 to 3 years. You had another one up on the screen.
Which is funny. As technology's gotten better, like our games used to take maybe a year between them and 2 years between them. Now it's like 5-6 years to AAA, and that's a problem. Because how many people are you employed for those 6 years? They're making over 6 figures each one of them, in expensive areas, hundreds and hundreds in a AAA game. And is that going to be possible? And one of the points I talked about, Seth, before was that the gaming world, like say LucasArts or Spielberg Studios, merged so many years ago the gaming and the film into one studio for all their effects because they're the same.
It's LucasArts now.
Right. It's the same for all the movies. They use it for making a game. They use the same digital artwork, right, over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is these big budgets. They're getting bigger and bigger, more time consuming, right? We have some new technologies like the what we call the globe, what the thing that's the shot for Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
The sound, right?
Yeah. SFX.
Anyway, they have their own bubble they shoot in now, which should save them time as far as having them wrap around walls for the movies and all the special effects.
What Jon Favreau and Mandalorian pioneered.
First Lion King, Tarzan,
yeah.
all that in. But basically, change the Mandalorian, now change the way things are shot, make some things faster, but in the same instance, there's so many more workers. So what we're also reviewing, critiquing in this new movie we're talking about is what he's taking with the feel. And I like the feel with Seth, because we like the movie, we like this an intro, we understand we're not naive to think this has to be Star Wars. It's not.
Yeah, it's not. It's not Star Wars. For the record, it's not Star Wars.
When he said Warhammer, when you said Star Wars,
yes.
When you said some alien stuff in there a little bit,
some
shots, there's so much different cinematography in this thing.
You can clearly see with Zack Snyder some of the influences of that which came before, right? Star Wars, Ridley Scott with Aliens, Alien and Aliens, which really I kind of stopped the series at those two movies right there.
I even got a Chronicles of Riddick feeling.
Yeah.
Some of the people who's fighting in that.
So you definitely get the feeling in this that first let me put out there, Rebel Moon is visually stunning.
Oh yeah, totally.
The world building and universe building within this, from the costumes, from the look and feel of it, 100% attention to detail has been given to it. And it's tangible.
It's not the Marvels.
No, honestly it's not.
And they had a big budget too.
Yeah,
let's go back to Moon.
But with Rebel Moon, it feels like a universe, much like when Star Wars came out.
Yeah.
It felt like a universe that you can taste, touch, and feel, and it's familiar enough. Different. It's familiar enough to feel real, but alien enough to feel like it's on a planet somewhere far, far away, somewhere in the distant future, somewhere in the distant cosmos of the universe, or potentially
different timeline.
Multiverse, alternate universe type stuff. And so one of the things that I think is really important for people to really grasp when they're going into Rebel Moon, Child of Ice and Fire, is the fact that this is the first act. Yeah. And much like any well-written play, you can go to Shakespeare for this.
Sure.
You can go to any well-crafted theatrical play in a playhouse somewhere, and you are not getting the full breadth of the story and the depth of characters in that first act.
And I feel like this hasn't been AI'd either. I feel when you watch the latest Indiana Jones movie, you can tell they went through and changed a million things on it, based on feedback from an audience.
Yes.
I feel like this didn't have that. I think Zack Snyder was left alone. It had some feedback at the end. Probably changed a lot of things in it, but it wasn't like let's do reshoots. I feel like
no test group. There wasn't a test group out there.
Or there were very few. It seems like.
And one of the things that I find uniquely impressive with this whole thing is that, like I said, it feels tactile and gritty and the thing. Okay, so without diving too much into my super geeky side, because this is really where we go when we get into the film universe. Which is really okay. So we're talking about the fact that this is Seven Samurais.
Yeah,
this is Seven Samurais.
Yeah,
right. Which, for those of you not familiar with Seven Samurais, then I think it's the Magnificent Seven, right?
Yeah.
And you can even go further in that, where Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt. Oh, who else is in that?
Recent remake,
Yeah. The most recent remake of Magnificent Seven. It is the quintessential setup that has gone all the way back to Star Wars and many, many films since.
Many westerns. Yeah.
Many westerns, many sci-fi movies, many gritty,
Totally.
And just for the record, I am not saying this is like John Wick, because John Wick is a different one. John Wick is more of the Yojimbo type style.
True.
The Ronin samurai striking out on his own to avenge death.
Back to Moon.
So, sorry. But this is Seven Samurais. This is a small Japanese village that is faced with potential destruction by the shogun and his people and the evil hordes and the evil baddie guys. And so the village employs a villager who will go out, who has a secret past, and will go out and seek others to fight on their behalf because they are not a warrior caste themselves. They're farmers and villagers. And they all come back to the little Japanese village, and they stand against the evil that stands before them, even up to and including their own doom and their own death. Right. That is the basis construct of what I see with Rebel Moon.
They reach out to the rebels.
Yes.
Kind of like Star Wars.
Yes.
There's a whole Star Wars universe.
There is a rebellion occurring.
Right? You go out into Cantina, which looks like Star Wars.
Yeah. Kind of has that Star Wars vibe.
You have your cute animals, you have your ugly animals, you have fantasy stuff going on.
One of the things that I'll definitely give this a lot of credit.
Star Wars.
Well, and one of the things I'll definitely give this a lot of credit that I actually really enjoyed from Zack Snyder's take on this is, like, for instance, let's go to the Cantina scene, right? So spoiler alerts, if you haven't watched Rebel Moon, we might talk a little bit about stuff.
Bit, but we'll never tell you why.
Spoilers alerts. So one of the things that I really appreciated about what Zack Snyder did is that all of the characters, all the main characters, and not only the main character, but all the supporting characters are humanoid characters. They're not aliens per se. Right? You do have a character in there named Jimmy, which is actually voiced by Sir Anthony Hopkins, which I feel was
awesome.
Oh, and I'm gonna honestly say this. I felt so cheated in this first act, by not getting to know or see more of Jimmy.
But you get a taste.
You get just a taste of Sir Anthony Hopkins' character Jimmy, which is a hyper-intelligent AI that lives in a nigh indestructible body and fought on behalf of the king and the queen and the royal family and all that other good stuff. And again, like you said, spoiler alerts, we're going to talk about characters and what we saw.
When I saw that, I got shades of Asimov.
Yes.
With the whole robotic rules.
Yes.
So from an OMGamrz point of view, this is pulling in like Warhammer, Star Wars, Asimov, Dune, supplies, and then also Chronicles Riddick with some of the funky technology stuff.
Yes, I agree. Now,
some of the religion going on here. So there's a lot of things they touch. That's why he keeps saying it's like, this is the beginning. Because they've opened up like 12 doors they can go through. The fantasy world, the Star Wars world, the Asimov world. It's like a foundation thing going on. So to us, it's a setting. From our old gamers' point of view, this doesn't have to make us sit here and go, wow, that was amazing. I'm about to tell my friends what. No, this is setting it up.
This is the world being built around us. I mean, like, you can go back.
The robot washes his face.
Yeah. I mean, like, you get a feeling of, point in case, like the world that they find themselves on where this first starts.
Yeah.
It starts with this shot of a giant super moon that takes up almost the entire sky, which is an alien sky.
Earth,
but within the setting and context of that, you get this almost like Nordic Viking village.
Yeah.
Made out of stone and thatched roofs, and
definitely
and so like I said, there's that alienness to it, but then there's that.
That's a Japanese story.
Yeah, and it's this deep, intense familiarity with this could be a farming village sometime in the 1700s somewhere in northern Europe. And then, like you said, when you leave the village and you go in and you meet that cantina scene, which has a very kind of like
Star Wars vibe.
Yeah, Tatooine,
but an old Western vibe.
Like an old Western, but also like a den of scum and villainy, right? Totally. And it's you go there and you check it out. And one of the things that I was trying to allude to earlier was the fact that one of the things that I deeply appreciate what Zack Snyder did is that his aliens inside of true alien alien life forms that are in there, they are not humanoid. They may be humanoid in appearance, but they are not a human character. They are 100% an alien species.
Somebody's eating somebody.
And it was
carnivorous.
And it was awesome because those species had their own vibe and feel and
totally different, really alien. Versus
really
Star Trek, where everybody just happens to be human wherever you go.
Well, yeah. Exactly, and like just everybody happens to be human, and apparently the humanoid form is the most evolved form of all alien species throughout the entire known galaxies and universe. This feels like there might be something different out there.
Yeah.
And you never know depending on what planet you go to. No. And that was one of the things, is that the alien species that he introduced throughout the movie, because there's more than one species you get to see throughout the movie.
Right.
Was it Chewbacca? My patron saint. But it not Chewie, right? But these different alien species, and one of the things that also struck me is not only how well they were developed and presented on screen, where they felt, again, real and tangible, like you might see this.
Looking back on it, I feel like this has a Conan vibe too.
Yes.
Like the way that director shot that movie, he was amazing. He's Piers Spielberg, look it up, I'm not getting his name and stuff right now. But it felt like just some of the actors, their physical embodiment, were picked out of weightlifting people. You can see that. But it's also the actor was there. We have the guy from, I can't remember his name, but he's from the motorcycle.
Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah. So like there's
Pacific Rim, baby. I know everybody knows him from Sons of Anarchy, but really where I was like, dude's pretty cool.
He's great
when I watched him in Pacific Rim, because Benicio del Toro did a phenomenal job with that.
And actors in this are like so there's a really good actor chops. They're setting it up. These big actors are not here for some small little part. They're here for a long story arc with Zack Snyder. Who knows going to go crazy? He's going to have an release of these two movies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the second one yet.
Now, I've seen the argument here that it feels like it's kind of a waste to release this cut without just doing the Zack Snyder cut. And I do kind of agree with that.
I'm different. I look at a marketing point of view, like get out the clean views, get everybody that can see it that way out, and then you get the core people come back for the second version.
Yeah,
and
people who are feeling
they're like that's my version.
Yeah,
like,
feeling like
the dark version out. A lot of people are going to run away. You're not going to see it with your friends and family.
Yeah.
It cuts down the numbers instantly. So.
Yeah, I get that. So like and that's another thing as OMGamrz, that we're both dads.
Yeah.
So like we've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Our kids have grown and college and out of college and doing their thing. So as fathers, I think it's also that I agree with you there. That definitely the darker cut probably would have turned off
initially.
Where this one, while it definitely has some darkness and violence in here, but it's more of a PG-13 violence.
More of a Star Wars, more like
I would go a little bit darker than Star Wars. I think
Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I think
the first PG-13 movie came out, which is really hard, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like it definitely had that feel where it's. I mean, you're not seeing blood. You're not seeing blood all over the place and stuff like that, but it definitely has some adult situation material within it that definitely, and a lot of violence within it, and a lot of death within it that is not bad. That's the thing with Zack Snyder's movie, is that Rebel Moon, if you take it for what it is the first act. They are world building. Right. They are introducing you to the characters, the cast, the basic premise and concept of this world, and you're starting to get a taste, touch, and feel for what it is, the universe that he's building.
Totally.
If you take it for that, this is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
I deeply enjoyed this movie.
You actually listen to what they're saying, what it's going to be. You're like, wow.
And to be brutally honest, one of the things is that because there is no source material for Rebel Moon, a lot of people have pointed out that, he wrote this script to be potentially a Star Wars movie, Okay, well, yes. Is there truth to that? Yes. He presented it to Lucasfilms. Lucasfilms came back and said, nah. And you know what? But he had this fully fleshed out script.
Yeah.
So anybody comparing this to Star Wars, other than the fact of looking and saying it is a space opera with big bad guys who run the universe, with big bad ships out there and stormtrooper military, hyper military type presence that they can drop on a planet and raise holy hell, I think that is about as close as you get.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you this, like I was saying, Sir Anthony Hopkins' character Jimmy, who is the only robot I've seen in this so far, definitely is not a droid.
No.
Is 100% not a droid.
No.
Like, the closest I can come is Rogue One. The droid out of Rogue One kind of has a similar kind of feel to it.
A little bit. Yeah.
Alan Tyndall's character.
Yeah.
But even there, Jimmy doesn't feel that because, and perhaps it's hearing Sir Anthony Hopkins' voice when he's speaking, but there's a refinement and an intelligence behind
his actions.
Jimmy the robot, his character, that makes him feel like there's a deeper depth. Hence why I was very disappointed that I didn't get more.
Right.
Because
in this movie,
Sir Anthony Hopkins. I mean,
in this movie, it's a setup. It's the start. And some of the characters here are just, it's just setting up their backstory. So, on judging that, we have our own scale system we're coming up with. And I'll let Seth explain more, but kind of 3 different scales. One is OMGamrz, one is single gamers, and one is family gamers. So we feel like a normal review for everything we do, we should have 3 scores. And that's, the intended audience is who we serve. So it's not just, we have our view, which will be the OMGamrz from our time point, our point of view, our lifestyle, what fits for us.
Yeah.
But single gamers are not necessarily OMGamrz, but single gamers have all the time in the world. They don't maybe not much discretionary income, but they know what they want when they see quality.
Well, no, I would also say single gamers also mean, I mean, I guess the way that I would contextualize single gamers is the SG score, the single gamer score, is really based on the fact of you could be a 14-year-old, you could be a 14-year-old kid playing PlayStation after school.
Yeah.
But guess what? You can play PlayStation after school, and as long as your homework's done and mom's happy because you did your chores, you can play from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 9, 10 o'clock at night, depending on when your parents say you're done.
Yeah.
Right? And it can also be the 18, 19, 21-year-old soldier in a barracks that you woke up in the morning, you did your physical fitness, you did your job in the motor pool, you came home, you ate your chow, and then you're going up to your barracks room, and guess what? Yeah, nothing else to do today, and I don't want to go out drinking with the guys and gals, so I'm going to play my video games. And you're going to play from like 6 o'clock until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, because you have that availability of time. It can also be the 47-year-old single guy or gal that's out there who your responsibilities in the world are, I need to wake up in the morning, I need to do my career and job, I finish that, I come home, and I love gaming. So what am I going to do? Get some DoorDash, sit down, put my soda, my tea, my coffee, whatever that is in front of you, my nice double of scotch, just saying.
Yeah.
Double of scotch, just saying. Putting my nice glass of scotch in front of me, and I'm going to flip on the boob tube, and I'm going to turn on my PlayStation 5 and fire up a game, and I'm going to go dig in. And if I want to spend 4 hours playing the game, if I want to spend 14 hours playing the game,
you're an adult, doesn't matter.
I'm an adult, it doesn't matter. Guess what? Because as long as I show up to work, I make my money, I pay my bills, and I keep the internet going.
So there's that part. Yeah. We have a big widespread single gamers.
Yeah. So single gamers means that you have the ability. It doesn't mean you should. It just means that you have the ability to spend dedicated time to learning and playing a game and going through the storyline of a game that expands beyond an hour or 2 hour window.
Yeah.
That you might have daily or a few times a week.
Fit your schedule.
Yeah. And then that third one that we have is the family gamer score.
Yeah,
and that's the FG score.
Yeah.
And that's important because we are now old man gamers. We've got the OMG score, right? Yeah. Which means that fits our lifestyle. Our kids are out of the house. We have discretionary income that we can put towards if we want to play a game. Yeah, I still got to talk to the wife and let her know that I'm going to go spend $70.
And you don't want to spend 200 or 300 hours on something that you don't have time for.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? But I mean, on the flip side, so the family gamer is where we have been at, which means I'm waking up every morning and I'm making sure that I'm helping the wife to make sure that the kids are off at school. Or it could be the single parent who is making sure that the kids are all good and off to school, or they're caring for an elderly parent, what have you. And making sure that, like I said, continue repeating this, but like the kids are off to school or the baby is taken care of in the morning, dropped off at daycare, they've gone and they've done their whole work schedule for the day or both their jobs for the day, depending on what kind of family life they have. And then they've come home and they're taking care of the kids, making sure they're fed, making sure everything's done, making sure laundry's done and everything else. And you might have maybe an hour or two at the end of the night, and you're exhausted and you're tired.
Depends on how old the kids are. There's different stages.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, there's variables. But I mean, like, the family gamer is the parent or parents.
Looking at games as a family.
Yeah, looking at games
as
from a
dad,
family perspective.
Is this appropriate for my family? Is this going to have bad connotations? And everybody's different. Don't get me wrong. We all have different violence and morality type things we look at. But generally in America, there's a certain sense of, is this appropriate for family or not?
Yeah,
and that's what family's game is.
Is this going to be appropriate to put my 8-year-old down in front of the PlayStation 5 because they really like playing games and they're going around and as they're playing this content, all of a sudden you see people's heads getting blown off and blood and gore everywhere. Well, for one family, they might be totally cool with that with their kids.
So to reiterate, we have OMGamrz score, we have
the OMG score,
Single Gamers,
the SG score, and the FG score.
FG score.
So really think of it as like SG single gamer, FG family gamer, OMG old man gamer.
For a certain audience, we're not just having some reviewer who's randomly selected review a game or movie and say, my personal opinion is this, and that just randomly came up. No, we have our audience, and we're going to be consistent with our audience for these scores. So when we're talking about OMGamrz score, it's kind of us. Talking about the single gamer, we're talking about that 14 to 50-year-old that's single and has all this discretionary time.
I'll be really honest, we're talking about your son.
Yeah.
He was in college. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And family gamer is this. So all three different perspectives. So right now we're talking about the Moon movie, Rebel Moon. So tell me what your score would be. You go first this time.
So if I'm looking at Rebel score, can I give it a 10 out of 10? Absolutely not. I mean, it's not a 10 out of 10.
OMGamrz score first.
Okay, so you want me to give the OMG score. From an OMG score, like we were discussing, this is world building.
Yeah.
It is visually stunning what he has put on the screen.
Yeah.
It is a new world that has never been touched or tapped before.
Yeah.
Do I see shades of other influences within that? Absolutely. But guess what? That makes sense because Zack Snyder grew up in a similar film environment of fantasy and sci-fi.
Probably an old man gamer.
Yeah, totally. He's probably an old man gamer himself.
Like Elon Musk. Go ahead.
So, yeah, like Elon, right?
We don't have many kids, Elon. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, or are they billions of dollars as Elon
That's
either,
true,
which would be really nice because then this would be a much easier setup. I'm just saying. But out of that, what I would give this is a solid 7 out of 10.
See, I differ now. I would, from a plot structure movie, from an old man gamer's point of view, I would give this a solid 8 because it's the beginning, and I feel like it's like the first Star Wars movie, not number 4, number 1. Let's go in order that way. I feel like it's setting up the plot. And
I concur with that.
For me, they can go 10 different ways, and each one can be good, or they can all be bad. So I'll give it an 8. So between the two of us, a 7.5 is our medium score.
I think, you know what? I'm willing to adjust because I agree with your take on that. So yeah, I'll adjust. Yeah, let's make it an 8.
Now, let's go to single gamer next. We should put the single in the middle.
Okay, so single gamers. All right, man. If you are looking just for a rip-roaring good time, being introduced to new content, visually stunning, like I said before, I can't repeat enough how visually stunning Zack has put on the screen.
Time to watch it.
Zack Snyder has created an amazing movie, and the world he built.
And that's the thought. The thought is when you watch this, is it worth your time? Is it worth 7 or 2 hours? Heck yes. It's definitely worth the risk. Now, will it be 5 years from now? Well, that all depends on the second movie.
Yeah, really, that's dependent on the second movie. So I think a fair score for a single gamer is also given an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely worth your time to watch. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'll be like, I'm not sure yet, but then you can either land the performance or miss it. So we'll see if it sticks it or not. We'll find out.
So because this, and now onto the family game.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm going to say is this. I mean, like for instance, there is a clear scenes in this movie, and again, spoiler alert. I'm not giving away plot points. I'm just telling you what I watched in the movie. There is a clear plot point in this where the big bad evil guys have gone and committed blatant war crimes on a planet, which has led to Cora, the main character, and how she has become what she is in this movie.
Right.
And this is a core building block of who and what she is and how she got there. And it is from a graphic in the sense that they are committing war crimes, and it is not alluded to.
And she does an excellent job. She's a true female character who, her fighting stuff, it's science fiction, so okay. But I liked her feminine qualities.
Yes.
She wasn't like trying to be a male. She had feminine qualities, she was a leader.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, she was a badass without having to give up being a woman.
Correct. Strong female lead.
Like, she didn't have to be a dude to be a badass.
Great actress. Yeah, totally.
She was a woman who legitimately embodied womanhood. Because like even her fighting style, if
Yeah.
you watch her fighting style in this movie, she's not brute force.
But they explain stuff later. We can't talk about spoilers.
Well, again, I don't want to give away spoilers, but she's not brute force in this.
She's finesse.
She's
strategy.
She's strategic. She's finesse.
You can tell she worked really hard at this.
Yeah, but she's a badass.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley and piss her off. I'm just saying. I mean, like, and I'm 6'3".
There is some movies that are questionable. Are they pushing an agenda? Are they pushing this character? Does it feel right and natural? This one kind of gets a bye for now. I think she did a really great job as a lead. From our time period till now, we look at it from a different point of view than younger gamers and younger people. So old man gamers, we're kind of like, yeah. Now back to single gamer, I feel like this is engaging. You should watch it. So I definitely get 8/10. We both agree on that.
Yeah. Now the family gamer, I will say this: the violence that they portray, I'm not going to say no to it. What I'm going to say is this: age range wise, I'm going to say that PG-13 is on there for a reason. This is one of those PG-13 movies where it's like, oh, was it because they showed a gratuitous butt shot, right?
Yeah,
no, it's not that. The violence that's contained within here is definitely PG-13. The only reason why I didn't get an R rating was because they didn't drop F-bombs. And
they're reserving their really hard R for another version.
And I will say this, the violence they depict is very adult subject matter because, like I said, there's war crimes clearly being committed on screen. I mean, clearly.
No, it's bad.
But out of that, they don't graphically show it.
Right, but I also think so for family gamer, let's get the score out, then we'll keep going.
I think I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a 5 out of 10. It's really not appropriate. Like if I had older teenagers who were mature, I'd be like, okay, I'll watch this with you and make
100%. Like if you get, like I said, PG-13. If you've got 13-year-olds and up, and maybe even a 12-year-old, again, like we said, we don't make judgments on what you deem appropriate for your kids.
No.
But on the family gamer side, I'm just going to tell you that as a father, but also as a family man, that dependent upon your own chosen box that you've created for you and your family and what's appropriate.
Yeah.
But based on that, I'm going to say that the adult subject matter that's in here. Now, it's not adult content. There's no sex scenes at all within this. Right. There's nothing that I would say is inappropriate from like nudity perspective and that matter that might make parents go, oh, whoa, why didn't they warn me about that in the movie? Right. But like I said, this movie is based about a warlike, oppressive regime that oppresses the populace of the known universe galaxy that they control with an iron fist. Right. Very, very very tyrannical in their approach. And so when you put that into context and you see them actually in moments doing that kind of activity in the movie, there's war crimes. And so you need to understand that the violence, it's not just that it's like, haha, war, bang, bang, violence. The violence at times is very pointed and it's very telling. Just in that,
it's gritty too.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. That's a great way to put it. It's great. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 because because parents who want to sit down and see this with their partner, I'm going to say 100% all day long. You should sit down and do it. It's worth the watch. Yeah. Especially if you're both into sci-fi or one of you loves sci-fi and the other partner is into comedy.
I mean, from my point of view, the culture of this movie did not get credit. And when the next part comes out, they're like, oh my gosh, wow, this whole thing tied together. Oh my gosh, Zack Snyder's genius. So I'll put my neck out there a little bit and say that this is, it's going to be great. 2 series. It's going to keep going. It's going to be bigger. They're going to, of course, after subject matter approval polls from people testing it, make changes. But I feel the acting is excellent. The film photography is great. The plot they're setting up is great. So I'm hoping greater things. So 8 out of 10 for us. 8 out for the single. 5 for the family.
And I didn't get a chance to put this in there because you were talking about Sir Anthony Hopkins so much, but I will say this. Hands down, one of my favorite actors in all of Hollywood is in this movie. Jaimin Hanchu is in this. Yeah. I mean, you cannot, there is not a movie I have not seen, there is not a movie that I have not seen him touch that he is in where he is not just
the rest of them around him.
Yeah, he is an amazing actor and he does incredible work. Yeah. And I mean, I remember first seeing him in Amistad, and I was just blown away by this guy. And I was like, where the hell does this actor come from? And then you find out that he was over actually in Africa, and he was discovered. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like...
Underrated talent.
Yeah, highly underrated. I feel like everybody knows he's really good, but they don't feel like everybody's like, oh, yeah, that's Jaimin Hanchu, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, why is he not in more things? Because he's amazing, right? But
New Age 100.
yeah, but I will tell you that one of the other big name actors that's in this movie that absolutely I can't wait to see more from him on screen because he is worth the watch in and of himself. Is Jaimin Hanchu is in here as a, and this is not again not spoiler in the sense of the plot, but I'll just spoiler alert. Jaimin Hanchu's in this, and he plays a general who served in that tyrannical government, and he was one of their most decorated generals, and he has fallen out of favor of that government.
Right.
And hence why he might have a bone to pick and a beef with the existing government. Yeah.
So overall, that's our view of Moon. We're just getting started here, guys. So we will get smoother. We apologize.
Yeah, once we get like maybe a whiteboard up on the wall with bullet points, we'll be a little more organized in our thoughts and our process to this. But overall, I'm going to say that, and I'll say this. OMG score, 8. Totally. Single gamer score, 8. Family gamer score, 5. And it's truly an amazing movie, but I don't know if it's really kid appropriate.
And they're release an R-rated extreme one. The kids are going to want to watch them. So.
Yeah. I'm just saying. But and then from that, I will also say this. Our opinion from OMGamrz is this worth the watch? Totally worth the watch.
Totally.
I am excited and looking forward to what the second movie brings. And I don't think it's a 2-movie. I think they're making a trilogy out of it.
When I remember sitting back with my friends and went to see Highlander, no one was seeing that movie. There were like 8 people in the show opening day. And I was like, that was a different experience.
Okay, and for our younger viewers, Highlander, you need to go understand it's an R-rated movie. So if you are one of our much younger viewers, don't watch it without permission from your parents, seriously, because like there's beheadings and stuff like that. It's raw, it's gritty. It's not gory, it's just raw and gritty.
Yeah.
And there's also a pretty explicit sex scene.
No one at that time period would pick this to be a 30-year arc for Highlander. New movies coming out, new shows.
30 years, dude. We're on 40 years now of Highlander.
Sorry.
In fact, it is so amazing that they have now launched a new Highlander remake.
I know. But we digress.
And we got Henry Cavill coming to that one, man.
But we digress. So I'm saying this, to me, in my memory, reminds me of that, where people are like, well, that's kind of weird. I'm not so sure. Well, you'll see. I think Zack Snyder is definitely money bet on. I think Netflix made a great decision here. Yeah, and we shall see.
Yeah, and I really feel like Zack Snyder repeatedly, time and time again, comes out, and every time he drops a movie on us, it is one of those movies where you're like, and this is not a knock on him, but I mean, at times do you feel like there are tried and true tropes that are within those movies? 100%.
Yeah.
But guess what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and I think that's part of the issue in Hollywood today that we see quite frequently is the fact that it's like, yes, people are trying to make groundbreaking, beautiful, artistic, wonderful movies that are new and a great storytelling. But let's be really honest at this point. I mean, we're talking movies go back to the 1800s now.